If you talk to anyone who has spent years digging through wartime manuals, museum archives, and first-hand trench reports, you start seeing a pattern that's impossible to ignore. As brutal and miserable as the First World War was, it forced ordinary soldiers to become some of the most adaptable problem solvers of the 20th century. They didn't have modern gear, high-tech fabrics, or packaged survival kits. They had inconsistent supply lines, shifting weather, contaminated water, and dugouts that could flood overnight. Yet out of that chaos came a collection of survival practices so effective that honestly many of them outperformed later modernized techniques. What makes these hacks worth revisiting is simple. They were designed by people who had to survive continuously, not theoretically. Their lives depended on solutions that were simple, fast, and absolutely reliable. For the modern prepper, homesteader, or historical enthusiast, World War I isn't just a chapter in military history. It's a goldmine of practical survival methods shaped by resource scarcity and physical hardship. These weren't gimmicks. They were field-tested every single day by soldiers who had no backup plan. In this guide, we're going to break down several of these forgotten techniques in a way that helps you apply them right now. They still work because they rely on physics, natural materials, and human ingenuity, things that, haven't changed in 100 years. World War I soldiers mastered passive shelter insulation in ways modern preppers rarely use. One reason World War I dugouts earned a reputation for resilience was their passive insulation design. Soldiers quickly learned that a shelter's survival had nothing to do with how thick the walls were, and everything to do with controlling thermal changes. When the ground froze, thawed, and froze again, poorly insulated dugouts collapsed. The ones that lasted were built using layered natural materials that slowed temperature swings. Soldiers often stacked sod over timber roofs, then covered that with loose soil to trap warmth and reduce condensation. Modern preppers can use this by applying the same layering pattern to underground or earth-sheltered structures. When building a root cellar, storm shelter, or even a backyard bunker, you can copy this approach by using a base layer of timber or concrete, adding a drainage layer of gravel, and then placing sod or compacted earth above it. The sod layer acts as a thermal buffer, while the gravel prevents moisture from being trapped directly against the roof. This small detail dramatically increases structural longevity and reduces internal humidity without needing electricity. For anyone constructing a low-cost shelter in a remote area, this World War I technique is ideal because it requires no specialized equipment and works even in harsh climates. Soldiers learned water purification the hard way and developed reliable, low-tech methods. Trench warfare created one of history's worst environments for reliable water. Wells were contaminated, containers were inconsistent, and chemical treatment supplies didn't always arrive on time. Because of this, soldiers used an overlooked yet effective water purification method, sustained boiling combined with improvised charcoal filtration. They used crushed charcoal from burned timber, packed into cloth, sand, or even empty ration tins, to remove sediment and improve taste before boiling the filtered water. This method still works today and is one of the most reliable emergency purification systems when commercial filters fail. A modern prepper can build a small charcoal filter at home using hardwood charcoal, a few layers of cotton cloth, and a simple container. Pour water through the charcoal to remove sediment and many impurities, then boil it for 1 to 3 minutes, depending on altitude. It's not complex, but it's field-tested and incredibly dependable. If you want a backup water purification strategy that doesn't rely on store-bought filters or chemicals, WWI soldiers already solved the problem. WWI trench cooking revealed a method of fuel-efficient heating that modern preppers can still use. Firewood was scarce on many fronts, so soldiers relied heavily on trench stoves made from empty fuel tins, mud and small ration cans. These improvised stoves worked because they concentrated heat in a narrow column and used induction-style airflow that burned small pieces of fuel completely. The concept honestly mirrors what we call a rocket stove today. The WWI version can easily be adapted for modern homesteads or emergency kits. All you need is a metal can, a smaller side opening for fuel insertion, and vertical alignment to promote draft. Even if you have access to high-quality gear, having the skill to build a functioning stove from scraps means you'll never be without a cooking method in an emergency. If you want to test it yourself, one practical exercise is to take 2 metal cans, cut a small opening near the base of one for fuel, place the other on top with ventilation holes, and try boiling water using nothing but twigs. When you understand the airflow, the stove becomes highly efficient and, honestly, works in almost any weather. Life in the trenches wasn't just physically brutal, it was mentally draining. Soldiers who lasted longest developed rigid routines that maintained order and morale even when supplies were low. Cleaning weapons at the same time each day, rotating duties, maintaining hygiene with minimal resources, and protecting dry clothing formed the backbone of trench endurance. Modern preppers often collect gear but forget this psychological and organizational component. A shelter stocked with supplies isn't enough. You need a daily rhythm that keeps tasks predictable. One simple way to adopt this is to set up routine maintenance cycles for your tools, food stores, and water systems. Choose specific days each month to rotate stock, inspect gear, and clean equipment. This reduces failure under stress and really builds resilience long before a crisis arrives. WWI survival strategies weren't high-tech, but they were brutally practical and remain usable today. If you want more historically grounded survival wisdom that connects the past to modern preparedness, make sure you subscribe, share this guide, and stay tuned for more episodes on Backyard Wisdom.